right. Keeping my fingers crossed because it's been a little while since I've done this live, but welcome back. I took a little bit of a break on this show for a while, and I want to thank our audience. If you're watching this live, we'd love it if you could drop a comment below. We're going live on 3 networks right now, trying to go live on 3 networks, I should say, on LinkedIn, which is my primary platform. We're also going live on YouTube, and I'm having a little bit of a hiccup going live on on Instagram. I am using Restream for that. So for those of you who are Restream users, you might know it's a little bit of a hiccup. You got to add a streaming code and go back and forth on it. So if you're watching on Instagram, let me know that as well, because then I know the live stream is picking up. And I want to welcome my very special guest today, Marjorie Turner Hollman, who's joining me. Hey, Marjorie, how are you doing today?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm good. Looking forward to our conversation.
I am as well. And Marjorie, I was telling you in the pre-show, I took a bit of a break from my live series for a while and I wanted to get back into it. You and I were talking recently about the subject here. Should you write a book? If so, how? And I said, hey, how about you come on my show and you'll be my first return guest to get back into this again. So I am delighted to have you here. You and I met through Innovation Women, which is a really great group supporting women who are looking for more speaking engagements. A shout out to Bobby Carlton for being such a great community leader there. And glad to have met you. I know a little bit about you, and for the benefit of those who might be watching this on the live stream, on the playback, or listening on the podcast later, Marjorie, could you take a minute, tell us your name, what do you do, and who do you help?
Good morning. I'm Marjorie Turner Hollman. What do I do? I work with aspiring authors to help them get their books self-published, nonfiction books self-published. So that's how I help people. And we have editors, we've got book designers, we've got cover designers, fact checkers, and indexers if you needed. We've got all of those on our staff, and looking forward to the next person we can work with.
Wonderful. Well, let's jump right into the discussion here today. I'm going to put us in a little bit of a tighter camera view here so our audience can see our lovely faces. And I'm just going to ask the question. This is the topic of the show is, should you write a book? If so, how? So let's first start with, a lot of us have this book goal on our to-do list, our bucket list, whatever you want to call it. We've had it there for a while. What's the determining factor? I don't know if everyone should write a book or not, Marjorie, but what do you think? Should you write a book? What makes that determination?
Depends first on what you aspire to. If you want to write a fiction book, you're probably not on the right call for us. I work with nonfiction, and the wonderful thing about nonfiction, if you have life skills or lessons learned that you would like to share, a lot of times it's a really powerful marketing tool to have a book. When you do speaking engagements, it gives you extra credibility, and it also gives you something to have people follow up and say, I want to learn more. I want to know more about what you talked about. So you can only do so much in a speech. You can only do so much in a conversation. You definitely can do stuff one-on-one with somebody, but you could also write a book that people can use. And they might still come to you and say, I need more help, because a book can only do so much too. But it absolutely makes you more credible as a professional.
That's a really great point. And I think about, for me, when I was thinking about writing a book, I would be speaking at conferences and people would come up to me afterwards and say, do you have a book? Or where can I buy your book? They kind of assumed, because I had all this knowledge, like, where can I buy your book? And it's really, I think it's preferred format, right? Because some people like to see you in person. Some people might like to learn from you online or working one-on-one. And other people like to have that resource, right, where we can kind of flip to the page and look up information. Right. So having a book in a preferred format, it sounds like, would be a good thing, right?
I see a lot of times books as a resource, whether it's a handbook, whether it's this chapter is for you, depends on the topic, of course. But if you give a lot of value, it's something that you don't have to go back and watch a whole video or go through a whole course. You can turn back to the book, even if it's an ebook or a paperback. Hardback I don't usually use, they're a lot more expensive. But having a paperback book just to hand people and say, here you go, keep it on hand, When you need it, it's right there as a reference.
Great. Okay, so we're talking to those people that are looking for nonfiction books, and I think we're here on LinkedIn on the platform, which is really focused on business and a lot of those topics that would be relevant.
Right.
And it sounds like you've been doing this for a while, and I know there's a couple different formats of publishing, and we think about the traditional publisher, like finding somebody to write the book for us and cut us a big check, and we're on the New York Times bestseller list, but we talked about in the pre-show, there's different paths to that. So can you give us an overview of the different paths for publishing?
Of course, people are probably most familiar with traditional publishing. You pitch a book either to an agent, most likely, who then pitches it to a publisher. And no, they're not going to write the book for you unless you are a major, major, major celebrity and say, I'll give you my name and you'll make money off of me. Traditional publishing is a business, and they will only put an option on your book if they think they can make money from you. So that's the first thing to keep in mind is they're not out for you. They are out for, we can sell you to readers. And yes, if you've got a really good book and they're betting that you'll make the money, you might get an offer. The landscape has really changed in publishing. In the past, self-publishing always seemed to be a vanity publishing. You're just wanting to say, I have a book. At this point, self-publishing has become a marketing tool, like we were just talking about. It's something that you can have as a book, and you want it to look the best you can. You don't want to have it something that puts people off. But it's a marketing tool, or it's just something to say, I'm interested in sharing life lessons. It might not be a marketing tool per se, but it might be more inspirational. That's some of what I've written. I've written some nonfiction, easy walks, books that are focused specifically on helping people get outside who have mobility and other challenges. So those are nonfiction. I've definitely sold them. People find value in them. It's not really life lessons learned. There's many different places. The other thing is hybrid publishing. Again, a hybrid publisher is going to make money on you. Typically, they will keep the royalties and give you a portion because that's how they pay their bills. But you still pay for the editors, the book designers, all of those things. It's a package that they charge you, and then they do all the hand holding.
Okay.
I do, there's other people that do what I do, but what I do is support services. I don't manage royalties. I'm not a publishing house. I've got trusted, skilled editors, fact checkers, indexers, book designers, cover designers that I have worked directly with myself, so I trust them to be able to deliver that help to aspiring authors. And then I get you to published on the print-on-demand publishing platforms, typically KDP or Ingram Spark, and it's yours.
And KDP,
I've got
that's
resources
Amazon,
that
right?
I can read.
KDP.
It is. But I've got marketing and other people that I also refer to, legal help with intellectual property. I've got people I can refer to on that. BizBook PubHub, I'm listed on, as well as a bunch of other skilled publishing professionals. So a lot of resources out there.
What was surprising for me, and I went through the self-publishing process about 5 years ago when I published my book, was that there's definitely an investment on the upfront, but using the KDP or these other models, you're uploading your file and it's printing on demand. So you're not having to have an inventory of books. Do you have any thoughts on whether it's good to sell direct from your website versus through Amazon or other sites like that? Or is it really just a user preference? What do you think?
No, there's different things to consider. Amazon, they take care of the mailing. you don't find out who has bought your book. So if you're trying to build a list, you don't know who those people are that are interested in your business. You can put a sales link on your website. There's a couple different ways to do that. Etsy is one that a lot of people know about. Lulu and Etsy kind of partner. Lulu's another print on demand. That Lulu will handle the packaging and mailing, print, mailing, send out the book through books that are ordered on your website. That's how you'll find out who's ordering books from your website. But Lulu only charges when the book is sold. Then you get the cut. You get their cut from Lulu. Etsy, from my understanding, I have not done this on my website, charges, I've been told $80 a month. I might be wrong. So whether you sell any books or not, you're putting out money to have that sales feature on your website. It depends on what your traffic is, what your goals are, whether you feel like that's going to justify the sales that you have. It might. I know people who it does. It hasn't felt like a priority for me right now. I'm trying to keep things simple.
It's interesting when you talk about the different print on demand places, the Etsy and Lulu and Amazon, things like that. And it's almost like I think about all the different payment providers that I've used, Kajabi and PayPal and Stripe. They all have different fees that they charge, and you almost have to like put them into a chart and sit them side by side and figure out your transactions and figure out your cut. And on that note, I had somebody the other day who asked me, they wanted to buy my book, and they said, I said it's available on Amazon, and they said, well, can I buy it from you direct? Because I've worked with other authors before, and I know if you buy it direct, you tend to get more money, and I think that traditionally could be right. But there's also your time. I told this person, I said, well, then I've got to print the label. I've got to go to the post office. I've got to put an envelope together. So it's like the value of my time. And I hear what you're saying from a list perspective, but is it traditionally that you make more money if you're selling it direct versus the other places? Or what are your thoughts there? Okay.
Yes. I do presentations, in-person presentations. And so I will sell books in person. And all I'm doing is paying for the cost for Amazon to print it. You don't get any discount for buying, say, 500 books. If you were going to an offset printer and they printed, that's where you hear the people with 500 books in their garage, because it is cheaper per book to do that. So with print on demand, you get no discount for ordering one or ordering 999 at once.
Right.
But as an author, I can get those books delivered to me for in-person sales, and the cost is what they call the author cost. Basically, it's Amazon's printing cost. They don't add the other expenses for their shipping and taxes and other stuff. They send it directly to you, and then you can sell the book for whatever you sell it for. I try to sell it in person for less than what Amazon has, because you're going to make more money anyway. And you want to give them an incentive to buy it now, as opposed to hope they'll go back to Amazon and do it, which lots of people say they will, and then they don't. So,
Good to know. So there may be people watching today that are thinking about writing a book, and maybe you saw this topic. Maybe you're watching this in playback or listening on the podcast, and we're here today with Marjorie Turner Hollman talking about, should you write a book? If so, how? So let's go back to the how a bit. And, I've made the decision. I'm committed to writing a book. So what's step one in the process? And let's assume this person wants to go through self-publishing, maybe so they gain more control throughout the project, but also because they want to keep more of the money for themselves after the sale of the book. So what's step number one in the process, Marjorie?
Step one, at least for people I work with, is finding out what you want, finding out what your goals are, and then finding out how best we could help you reach those goals. So it really just requires a conversation, just getting started with that. And from there, I advise either if you want to do all the writing yourself, which is what I prefer. If you need some help in that, I offer book coaching. Okay. If you already have a manuscript, but you know that it needs some work, I offer a manuscript review. So if you've already got it, manuscript review that I charge for, and I'll look at the whole thing, and then we sit down and talk and say, here's what I see. What would you like to do with that? Because with self-publishing, truly, it's up to you. It's up to you what you want, and I hope you want the best book you can. There's trade-offs. Some people say, this is the only editing I want. It's hard, but I will refrain from doing all of the things I think it needs if that's all you want.
Yeah.
If that's all your budget is. The potential is all over the place. I really like to work with people who know what they want. When people don't know what they want, I might be able to get you to help figure that out. If you keep waffling back and forth, probably I'm not going to be the best person to
it's
work
always important
with you.
to find a coach who's a good fit. What I heard you describing is you've got a process that you go through, but it sounds like you have a little bit of an a la carte menu of options for people to work with. So it's not just one set fixed package. You have different options based on if I have a manuscript or if I don't, if I need some guidance. I'm guessing you have, some guidance on timeline too. Is that fair to say?
That's important. This gets back to traditional publishing. People are always saying, well, it'll be out October of next year. And the timeline is often 2 years or more. If you're looking for a marketing tool, you don't want to wait 2 years. Things may have already changed in 2 years' time. Self-publishing, I know some people who are so adept and their writing is so clear and they're so organized that they've taken about a month and finish up the last writing and get it out there. I would never recommend that you take it a month because I've got contractors that I need to give them time to do the editing. But typically 3 to 6 months is not unreasonable to be able to get it out there. It's a whole different ballgame than what traditional publishing offers.
Because traditional publishing can be what I've heard is like the 1 to 2 year time frame, whereas self-publishing, we can get it more in the 3 to 6 month if we're aggressive and if we stick to our homework that you give us. Is that fair to say?
Right. That's right. That's right. It also, I hear a number of people who have been more small press, large press, you don't get any control over the cover. You may get told, here are your 3 choices, choose.
Right.
Maybe. Or you might get told, here's your cover. And they're publishing.
And that's it. You don't get that choice. Like, this is what it is.
You really don't. You really don't. And the downside of self-publishing is you got to decide. And that's part of the cost, is working with someone who's designing the covers. And if you really can't decide, again, it's going to cost more time on the cover designer to be able to come up with a design that hopefully you will like.
So what if someone comes to you and they want to help you guide them through the process and they have no idea what they want to do on the cover? Are you asking them questions before coming up with designs? And it sounds like you're working with illustrators on the outside for that, or what does that process look like? How can you guide them?
There's different genres. And again, if you go back to fiction, there are dystopian genres, there are murder mystery, there fantasy, those kinds of things. And they've got to look. So if that's what you're doing, you want to look at other covers in your genre. For nonfiction, a lot of times they're business books. And so you don't want an airy-fairy dragon, unless you're talking about
dragons. Let's hear a dragon expert. There's
in a metaphor
out there, I guess, in the nonfiction. I don't know. Corporate dragons, perhaps.
You want it to be a little more formal, but you still want to get people's attention. What I'm doing right now with a client is I've sent the manuscript that we're working on to my designer and said, here's the manuscript. Just kind of go
Yeah.
through it. See what ideas come up. See what feels like an important idea. We're already pretty clear on we know what the title is. So here's the title, and come up with some designs, and then we'll be able to
Okay.
show that to the
And then
client.
going through the
So it's
self-publishing, then they
a,
can
yeah.
pick and choose, here's some favorites, or I'd like this one, but can you tweak and modify? So there's probably a little bit of iteration back
Mhm.
and forth.
Yes, there's also even just discussion about
Mm.
size, book size. A lot of the self-published are either 5x7 or
Okay.
6x9. For a client I'm working with now, it's going to be more of a handbook, and we're actually going to be in conversation. Should we make it like 8 by
Okay.
10? So there's more room
And
to
to write
see
out if it's a
what the
workbook.
steps are,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
take notes and other such. So it's again a personal decision, but there's guidelines that you want to
Mm-hmm.
consider, and not make a tiny little book that you're expecting people to read that you've only got like 10 lines a page because it's
Right.
so small. So you want to leave white space. You want to make it so that people can see and their eyes don't get tired. You want to make the font big enough. One interesting thing is that large print, as baby boomers, who I am
Mm-hmm.
one of, large prints have become very high sellers.
Okay.
A lot more volume. I think a lot of libraries are purchasing large print. My library has a huge section of large print. So that's something, even when you're talking about
Like a different
sales,
version. I didn't think
to
about that. Yeah.
think about who your audience is. Yes, large print is a different version,
Mm.
and there are very specific requirements. Has to be 16 or 18
Font. Yeah.
point.
Okay.
Needs to be Times New Roman. It needs to not use italics. You want to use bold print instead of italics. These are all for screen
That's
readers
interesting.
and for people that are either visually impaired, blind, or just having trouble
Sure.
reading, which includes
Yeah.
me,
No, I love that. Are the
So
prices for large print books the same as, or is there a premium price for that? Because I'm thinking if I took my book and converted it
um,
to large print, it would increase the page count, which would then increase the printing cost of it.
it
So,
it does.
mhm.
You're right. It increases the printing cost. It decreases your royalty because that depends on number of
Okay.
pages. The large print I see in libraries are hardback,
Mhm.
and they're typically produced by companies that specialize in large print. But you don't have
Okay.
to. You don't have to be a publishing
Mm.
company to do that. To be able to claim that it's large print, it has to be, at least on Amazon, at least 16
Okay.
point.
That's good to know. I hadn't thought about that, and maybe that's a question to even ask of your audience as you're publishing a book, if there's a market for large print. Say I'm considering a couple different formats: paperback, the e-reader version, audiobook, or large
Mm-hmm.
print. Indicate
Right,
any and all that would
right.
be of interest to you, because you might say, I like audiobooks, but I would love it in large print as well, and that might make the determination for you. Now, when you were describing that reduces your royalties, so you as the book publisher are responsible for that additional expense. You're not passing it on to the consumer for paying that. Is that the industry expectation,
Right.
the market expectation?
It's a little more involved than
Mhm,
that. Um, Me as a publisher, I go through print on
mhm.
demand. So I'm not really the
Gotcha,
publisher. KDP sets the price, the minimum price by the page count.
gotcha, okay.
They
Mhm,
also require the book design, the cover design by the
mhm.
page count. You can't do that final design until you know exactly how many
Okay,
pages it is. So there's some working back and
okay,
forth with the cover designer. Um, when you have a higher page count, your difference between your royalty and the sale price, um, your royalty decreases. It doesn't make the sale price higher. It's you have to choose what price you're setting the book at so that you get the royalties that you want. If you set it too high, people aren't going to buy
mm,
it. If you set it too low, you're not going to get very much return. So finding that sweet spot. I typically set it at $20 just because it's simple. I don't do the 99 cents, which makes you think you're getting a bargain at $21.99. That I just keep it simple.
I like that methodology. So. All right. So what I'd like to do now, Marjorie, if it's okay with you, is we're going to change gears. We're going to bring our audience into the conversation. I've seen a couple of comments come in, and I want to remind our audience, if you do have any questions for Marjorie, we are live right now. You can test us out. Ask us a question. I'll read it up for you on screen. A lot of times, Marjorie, I feel like we're in this day and age of AI and computer generated, and, we're questioning authenticity. So test me out. If you're watching live right now, whether you're watching live on Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube, drop a question in here and I'll ask Marjorie live, and then you can actually see that the show is live. Now, for those of you who are Restream users, I've noticed this, and I don't know if this is just me alone in this, but when I'm hosting an event on Restream, I usually see all the comments that are coming on LinkedIn. They come into Restream right away, and I'm just double checking that. So far, I've seen comments in our live session from Carrie Brayson. Carrie, thank you so much for joining us. She's coming in from Arizona today. I think she's 2 hours behind, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you, Carrie, and good morning and welcome to you. And Carrie also commented earlier that books can help to build credibility in your expertise, which was a nice point that you had made there, Marjorie. I also saw that we had a comment coming in from Jeff. Hey, Jeff, he's joining us from Wisconsin. And he's saying he appreciates the insights from both of us, as this is something he has been considering. Okay, so Marjorie, Jeff, and to others that are on there, he's on the fence. He's been considering. What advice do you have for Jeff?
First thing is what's your topic and who's your audience? And that's the first thing when you say whether I should write a book or not. Do you have life lessons or technical skills or other type of personal skills that are in demand? Are people asking you questions? Are people coming to you? Depends on what your business is. If people are asking you a number of the same kinds of questions, that's probably something you need to pay attention to. So if you're considering it, you also have to look at your bank account and say, it's not free. That's not completely true. You can do all of this yourself. You can find an editor. You can go to very different cheap editors, book designers, cover designers, and spend very, very little, and then figure out print on demand, figure out all of the things with there, and do it all yourself. They've got templates, book cover templates that fit their books. They just need the page count. A lot of it is automated, but a lot of people don't know the book industry. They don't know the publishing protocols. How do you make your book look like it's professionally published? And so I think those are the things that somebody who's already done it brings a value. If you really are a self-starter and you don't want to spend the money, by all means, go at it. There's a lot to read, a lot of information out there. It really is possible. And then if you want some support, there's different levels of support. I do book coaching. That's at an hourly rate. I do whole packages, and that's at a different set rate, depending on what you need. And we go from there. So I don't know if those are some helpful things to consider.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I see a couple more questions that I have come in here. This is one from Diana, and she's saying, I don't support Amazon or Etsy, and I respect, everyone has different preferences with regards to company values and your own values, and I totally respect that, Diana. So thank you so much for sharing and for being brave enough to say that. And she's saying, if you're a type of person who wants to do a book, but you're not a big fan of Amazon or Etsy, what recommendations do you have, Marjorie, for other places to sell books? What do you think?
Oh, well, there's lots. The other print on demand, really industry standard, is Ingram Spark. And they have just changed, so you no longer have to pay to publish. You give them the finished manuscript. Last I checked, they do require that you use their InDesign app to be able to upload your manuscript. I have a designer who works with InDesign, and so she's able to do that for me. I'm not certain how people do that without already being a book designer. Ingram used to just work with book designers,
Okay.
but they have made it so that there's no charge to keep it listed. They do have a listing. Once Ingram has published, eventually Amazon will pick it up just because it's out there. Ingram sends out catalogs to libraries, to other bookstores, so they've got a slight advantage there. A lot of people do Amazon first and then publish on Ingram. If you publish on Ingram first and then go yourself and publish on Amazon, they don't play well together, and you may end up with some problems. So either or, both, there's a specific way to upload them. There's also a platform called Draft to Digital. If you wanted to just do an ebook and get the best return, Draft to Digital
What was it? Can you spell that for
a
me?
very good. Sure, it's draft number 2, just the number 2 digital.
Okay.
And that's those are some options. Etsy, I don't do online selling, so I don't have good information of what alternatives would be for
Okay.
Etsy. I know there are some
Yeah.
out there, but that's not something I'm familiar
Is Lulu
with.
kind of like an alternative as well? Because Lulu's not under Amazon or Etsy, so we could trade Ingram Spark. Hopefully, I spelled that
Correct.
correctly. Ingram Spark, Draft to Digital,
Yeah,
or Lulu. Let me just
yeah.
drop that in there. I'm going to put Lulu in there.
Lulu started out as a way to publish photographs, like book photograph pictures. So they've got options like shiny
Yeah.
paper and things that you might want if you were doing a children's book. And it is print on demand. They publish them. I don't understand their whole system. You get less royalties through Lulu. It is not as much to your author advantage to publish through Lulu. And not as many people are going to find it online.
That's a good question. I'm curious, and I'm going to go to Carrie Bryson. She's got a question next, but I'm curious as we were talking here. I know that in some book publishing packages, or self-publishing packages, they'll recommend like a PR element, like getting the word out to whether it's the media or getting a press release out or things like that. And I think about my own book right now, and it's over here. Where's it at over here? It's over here. It's been out for 5 years, and I still get like some residual sales coming in from Amazon, or if I'm at an event, I might, bring books and sell with me. But for the most part, you get the bulk of your purchases when the book is new. So do you have any thoughts on whether it makes sense to put a PR effort against it at book launch, working? And if so, should you work with an expert or can you do that on your own? What are your thoughts?
I have never paid anybody to market my books. There are people out there that I trust who I've watched them work with other people, especially in the pandemic. We had a whole things that we watched online through Zoom when we were all on Zoom, and watched a PR firm work with an author from the start to PR training to all of those things. So I have a preference of who I would recommend. I'm not going to do anything negative for anybody else. I do have.
Do you want to give a shout out to those people? You're welcome to if you'd like.
It's Wasabi, WASABI. They're a PR firm. And the other preference that when you were talking about your book is 5 years old, I relaunched my book after I'd written it 2 years before. And it's never too late. If you've got evergreen content, you could relaunch your book. And the person that I recommend for that is Robbie Samuels.
Oh yeah. Well, we're going to give him a shout out. Yeah.
And he just wrote the book, Launch Your Book. And I've used those methods before he finished the book. I've been on 2 of his launch teams. And it's a process to get verified purchase written reviews for your books. And I have not come across anybody who's as
Yeah.
effective as what
Oh,
Robbie's
that's good to
doing.
know. And I am thinking
It's
about a
really,
second version of Social Media Pie, but I also have ideas for 5 other books, and
hmm
I personally feel a little bit more excited about some of the other ideas. Not that I don't love my first book, but I feel like it's a labor of love going through the process of publishing, and there's also, like you said, an investment that's involved. So I struggle with, do I refresh Social
hmm
Media Pie, put a different type of pie on the cover, refresh the contents a little bit, or do I write a new book as
what
my
you,
second? Do you have any thoughts on that? If you're a one-time author so far, should you refresh a book
hmm
that's 5 years
hmm
old, or should you do another book before doing a refresh?
can always do a
Yeah.
second edition. The most important thing to think about is don't change the main
Yeah. Okay.
title. What you want with that second edition is to be able to take your written reviews and port them over to your second edition without losing all those
Yeah.
reviews. So that's something I learned was you can change the
Mhm.
subtitle, but don't change the main title on a second
Okay.
edition.
But do we
And
pull down
if
the
you
first
do that,
edition when the second edition goes up? So if it's on Amazon, do I close the sales?
yeah,
Okay, because I wanna try to get everyone to the current
yep,
edition, obviously, of the book there. All right, good.
right,
All right, I'm gonna keep us moving
yeah.
along here if that's okay,
So,
Marjorie. I see we have, 2 more questions that
but you want to launch. You do want to launch that second edition or just
yeah,
relaunch.
either one.
Either one. Use Robbie's
Okay,
book.
good. All right. So Carrie
Okay.
Bryson, it sounds like she might be on the fence here. She's saying, "Do you recommend coming up with an outline to get started?" What do you think?
Depends on how you are. Are you already an outline person? Do you write outlines for things you're
Mhm.
working on? Do you, when you're writing content, do you outline it first? Or do you start with an idea and go from
Mm,
there?
mhm,
I think it's personal preference. I'm not an outliner.
mhm.
I do figure out what is in a book, and my books are a little different. They're not narrative per se. What the memoir is short 2-page meditations. So that was more just organizing, and my librarian sister helped me with figuring out the topics. I was too
Yeah.
close. And my other trail books are specific. They're in order. So I think it's more your own preference and what's going to work for
Okay.
you. I don't have a strong one way or the other. This is what you do. You certainly don't have to start an outline. You might want to list the chapters, like a table of contents, to help you get organized.
Mhm. Okay. Good to know. And
You're
Jeff
welcome,
Jeff
Jeff.
is thinking, he's like, "Gosh, I've asked myself some of the same questions, so I might be coming off of the fence." So we're here to push people off the fence
That
in a
would be
positive
wonderful.
way. All right, Joey, I love this question. Nice to see you, my friend. I haven't seen you online for a bit. I keep seeing you in different circles, but we haven't seen each other live in a while, so it's great to see you. Joey says, "My friend is writing a second book to complement his first one." He gives a little winky emoji. "Is it okay if he uses any content from the first book in the second book, or should the second book have all new content?" Marjorie, what say you?
I would need a little more information. There's nothing to say you can't reuse content. It's your book. So nobody's going to turn you into the book police if you use some of the same
Mhm.
content. It really depends on how you're using that content. Are you using it as a jumping off point? Are you using it with a different perspective? I would really need to know
Mhm.
more to answer that question
Okay.
fairly. And what are the goals? And are you just targeting a different audience? Because I was speaking with someone the other day and was talking about, well, we could have this book for lawyers, we could have this book for real estate people, we could have this book for them, and you could create all those as different
Mhm.
series. Um, it's the book for dummies,
Yeah,
all the
right?
different, how many different, they've got a
Mhm.
format. And so they use that exact same format, but different
Yeah.
content. I'd need to
Okay.
know more
All
to
right.
be
Well,
able to
Joey, you
answer
might
that
you might
fairly.
wanna have your friend
Happy
talk
to
to
have a
Marjorie, it sounds
conversation.
like, I think there, right? Yeah. All right, great.
happy to have a
Yeah,
conversation.
that's great. And thank you, Joey, so much for being on and for asking that question. And I'll remind our viewers too, if you're watching this in playback, still submit your questions into the chat because I'm going to direct Marjorie to the links where she can look at the playbacks later and check this out. And by the way, if you're watching this on the podcast, you can also, we'll give you some ways that you can get a hold of Marjorie here in just a few minutes. So I want to wrap up our conversation here, Marjorie. And first of all, thank you so much. Great insights. You've got my wheels turning on my
You're
next
welcome.
book, and hopefully you've got a few folks like Jeff and others in the audience thinking about this as well. As we start to wrap up our discussion, I want to ask, where can people go to learn more about working with you? Is that your website? Is that the best place to start?
Yep, yep. My website, marjorieturner.com. There's information about publishing. There's also information about meditations and my memoir. There's information about other books that I've helped publish.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the best place to start. LinkedIn, I'm happy to receive connections. I do check and see who people are before I accept, but you don't have to send me a message. Message always helps, but I'll check. I check. I don't just say, sure.
Yeah.
I'll
You want to make sure it's the
I'm
right
picky, but
person
not.
coming in to your network, right?
I do, but that I check. But I would welcome people reaching
Okay,
out.
good. And with your option of the go to your website, do you offer like a discovery call as a start in the process, or is it just we got to click a link to sign up, or what's the start of that process look like?
I have my email right on my
Okay.
website, and all it takes is an email. I don't think I list my phone number, but an
Okay.
email is
Okay.
right there. And happy to, yeah, I don't have a formal process for how people register. Send me an email and we'll work
Okay,
it out.
good. Well, I encourage you all to check out that website, marjorieturner.com. That's marjorieturner.com. I always like to spell it out in case somebody's listening on the podcast, or maybe they're, not, they're listening to it on video, but not watching us up on screen and they're confused about how to spell that title on there. I will also drop the link into the show notes and into the comment areas on LinkedIn, Instagram, and on YouTube in case you're interested in checking that out. Marjorie, such a great discussion today. We were talking today about should you write a book? If so, how? Do you have any final comments for would-be authors who might be watching us here today?
I would recommend you to pay attention to Brenda and the work that she does. LinkedIn is a huge, huge place to meet people, people who are looking for opportunities, looking for help, looking for support. And Brenda I've already learned so much
Aw.
from you. You're very
Well,
generous, Brenda, and I really appreciate that. Very generous inviting me here today.
yeah, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. And, since you're mentioning this, I'm going to drop this up on the screen as well. I do offer a LinkedIn checklist for people that are looking to publish a book. It's called Book Marketing LinkedIn Checklist. And for people who are authors or thinking about publishing a book, this is a really easy checklist to follow, easy ways to promote your book through LinkedIn and to help to generate some of those book sales. So I'll give a little bit of a plug for that. So maybe after you work with Marjorie on getting your book published, and you grab that LinkedIn book marketing checklist, and then you can check that out as well. So little plug for that. Marjorie, this has been a delight. I want to thank you again so
Yay.
much for joining, and thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
You are so welcome. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I will go ahead and wrap us up here today. This is my show, which is called Enthusiastically Self-Employed. And I'll remind you that I've just started the series up again. This is something that I'm planning to do every Thursday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you'd like to come out and join us, check out my website for upcoming events or watch me on LinkedIn. You'll see notification of future events like these that will be coming up in here as well. With that said, thank you all so much for watching and have a wonderful afternoon. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.